Hello, everyone. This is Mike Anderson of Collision Advice and Ryan Taylor from Body Shop Booster. Our
Hey,
webinar,
everybody.
our webinar, Capturing a Crisis, will begin in approximately 5 minutes. Thanks for joining us today. Hello, everyone. This is Mike Anderson of Collision Advice and Ryan Taylor from Body Shop Booster. Our webinar, Capturing in a Crisis, will begin in approximately 4 minutes. Thanks for joining us today. Hello, everyone. This is Mike Anderson of Collision Advice and Ryan Taylor of Body Shop Booster. Our webinar, on behalf of Assured Performance Network, Capturing a Crisis, will begin in approximately 3 minutes. Hello, everyone. This is Mike Anderson of Collision Advice and Ryan Taylor from Body Shop Booster. And on behalf of Assured Performance Network, our webinar, Capturing a Crisis, will begin in approximately 2 minutes. Thanks for joining us today. Hello, everyone. This is Mike Anderson of Collision Advice and Ryan Taylor of Body Shop Booster. And on behalf of Assured Performance Network, our webinar, Capturing a Crisis, will begin in approximately 1 minute. Thanks for joining us today. Hello, everyone. This is Mike Anderson of Collision Advice and my good friend Ryan Taylor from Body Shop Booster. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar entitled Capturing in a Crisis, brought to you by Assured Performance Network. Ryan, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mike. This is sure a privilege.
Hey, awesome, brother. Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, we have to cover a couple ground rules. The first is we always have to go over antitrust guidelines, so please bear with me as I read this. It is understood that in today's session, we will not discuss any issues that would violate antitrust guidelines. Avoiding violations of the antitrust laws is the responsibility and legal obligation of the business owner. Any discussion of current prices or discounts with a competitor should be avoided. In our industry, this includes discounts, time hourly rates, charges to insurance companies, individuals, fleet owners, dealers, or other shops or repair vehicles. Surveys of prices, discounted costs are permissible, but only under strict guidelines and only if they're not part of a conspiracy to fix prices or otherwise restrain trade. Cost studies that lead to price fixing or price stabilizing agreements would violate United States antitrust laws. And remember, the prices you charge must be calculated and determined by you, the business owner alone. And these prices should always take into account the cost of doing business and include allowances for a reasonable profit. All content of this webinar today is based on standard economic and management principles. Profit margins, labor rates, etc. used in this webinar are to be taken as examples only. And the intent of this webinar is to provide you, the attendee, with basic management skills, leaving you free to determine your own individual rates, profit percentages, and other operating management aspects of your business on a strictly independent basis using generally accepted management principles. Can I get an amen, Mr. Ryan?
Amen.
Thank you, my brother. Now, ladies and gentlemen, all participants have been muted just because sometimes people forget to, put themselves on hold and we get background noise, or people put us on hold and we listen to their boring on hold messages. However, questions are encouraged. So if you have a question, we have our teammate, Tracy Dombrowski, is on the line with us. If you have any questions, you can either use the questions feature in the GoToWebinar panel, or you can text your questions directly to Tracy at 571-458-0648. Now, about every other slide, you're also going to see Tracy's number pop up. So at any time you can grab it and you can text her any questions you have, because questions are encouraged. And please include your name and shop name so we can give you a shout out during the webinar. In addition, this webinar is being recorded and we will make it available to our friends at Assured Performance Network so they can provide you a link to share it with your staff afterwards. So thank you again to Assured Performance Network for allowing us today, as well as any of the OEMs that are supporting this webinar. Now, first of all, you see a picture here of Batman and Robin. I need you to understand that Ryan Taylor is Batman and I am his Robin. So pow, boot, biff, right, Ryan? Are you ready to knock some people out, Ryan?
Dude, I gotta say, man, you're the Batman, I'm the Robin. So you got that backwards. When I grow up, I want to be like you. So we'll just leave it.
That's you, bro. That is you. And I hope some of y'all got to check out Ryan's cool promo video he set out with the golf ball and the egg. If you didn't see it, I encourage you to find that promo video and take a watch. And we also cannot forget our good friend and teammate, Tracy Dombrowski. In my mind, Ryan, she's Wonder Woman. What do you think, brother?
Absolutely. She runs the show and makes us look good. So thank you, Tracy.
She is the brains and we're the brawn. So ladies and gentlemen, obviously COVID-19 is all anybody's thinking about today, right? I mean, it's everybody's mind. I totally get it, right? But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that today's webinar will somehow encourage you and lift you up and help you to see some light at the end of the tunnel, as well as a silver lining. Ladies and gentlemen, we also want to give a shout out to all of you collision repairers that are considered essential people so that you can keep people's vehicles on the road so the doctors can get to the hospitals. A shout out to our first responders. And, just ladies and gentlemen, thank you to all of you for serving in this industry. Now, one of the things that I like to talk about with my 20 group members is that lots of sales cover lots of sins. Now, some people don't really understand that. So let's just put it this way. Lots of sales cover lots of mistakes. What I believe, ladies and gentlemen, is that when people are busy and they're making money, they start to sometimes overlook the things that made them successful in the beginning. In addition, ladies and gentlemen, when we're profitable or we have a 1 or 2 or 3 week backlog worth of work and things are going well, sometimes we don't pay attention to the little things. And what I'd like to tell you today is that I believe when we get through this coronavirus, ladies and gentlemen, and you didn't hear me say if, I said when, that this coronavirus will have a silver lining. And that silver lining is that it is going to open our eyes up to something that Ryan and I like to refer to as capture rate. You see, ladies and gentlemen, right now, the biggest thing that we're hearing from everyone is that sales are down. People are down, their sales are down 45, 50, 60%, right? Some people are having to lay people off, right? I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that what this coronavirus has done is has given us some insight into what our industry would look like 10 years from now. And why is that? Because, ladies and gentlemen, if it's no secret that because of the implementation of ADAS features on vehicles like blind spot monitors and parking sensors and cameras, we know last year the claims count across the United States was down about 2%. And we attribute that to the ADAS features in vehicles. Now, there's an analogy I like to use, and please know I am not like a mean person, right? But it's just the only analogy I can think of. So Ryan, there's this story of this frog that like you have a pot of boiling water. When you put the frog in it, the frog feels the boiling water and jumps out, right? But then what they do is, and then they tell the story, Ryan, about where they have a pot of cold water and we put a frog in it and we gradually turn the heat up a little bit. And eventually, you know what it does? It boils that frog to death. Ryan, I believe that prior to this coronavirus, we were that frog in that pot of water where the temperature was getting turned up. And if we did not have this wake-up call because of coronavirus, there are many collision repairs that I believe would have been boiled to death in business. Now, what do I mean by that? That is that with claims count declining 2 to 3% every year, that was like the heat being turned up on that pot of boiling water with that frog. And what would have happened is every year, 2%, 2%, 2%. And one day we're going to wake up and claims count would have been down 20% because of ADAS. And many of our shop members would have been standing around saying, what happened? Ladies and gentlemen, here's what I believe. I believe that claims count declined last year. Matter of fact, I don't believe it. I know it. Claims count declined last year. But what happened is most people did not feel the heat being turned up on us with claims count declining because it was being masked by increased severity. That as severity went up, ladies and gentlemen, as we had the average cost of repairs went up because of scanning and calibrations. If you were to ask most shops last year and said, hey, how were your sales? They would say, my sales were up. But I believe sales were up because severity was up because of increased severity. And that increased severity was masking the fact that we probably had less cars coming to the door because of ADAS. The other thing, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that kind of masked car count coming to the door or claims count declining was that unemployment was at an all-time low. Gas prices were at an all-time low. And we had more people driving on the roads than we had in many years. And what was happening is all these people driving and the increased severity was masking the fact that car count or claims count was down. Now, if we look at this data right here, you will see that the average cost of severity was going up, but what we see is also that claims count was declining. Now, again, when we look at claim severity, a lot of people refer to this as TCOR, total cost to repair, TCOR, if you ever hear that acronym. We can see that according to CCC1, our great friend Susanna Gotch, you will see that severity has been climbing year over year for collision claims. So because the fact that severity was going up, it was actually masking or covering up the fact that we were having less car counts at the door. Now remember, if any time you have any questions, please text those to Tracy at 571-458-0648. So ladies and gentlemen, here's what I believe. I believe that as ADAS becomes more prevalent in vehicles on the road, you will see that accident frequency will decline. What I also believe and know is that severity and more vehicle miles driven was masking that fact, and so we really weren't privy to it. And now our eyes are being opened to what we think things are going to look like, ladies and gentlemen, 10 or 15 years from now. So I think at the end of the day, this coronavirus is going to help us to see what the future would have looked like 10 or 15 years from now, and we can start to prepare for it now instead of waiting to 10 or 15 years. The other thing we know is if we look at statistics from the Insurance Institute of Highway and Safety, or again, our good friend Susanna Gotch at CCC, you will see that they were looking at, they said that the average claims count was only going to decline by about 2% in 2019, and then another 2% in 2021, and another 2% in 2023. And so you would look at this data, and they were saying, look, it would probably be 2049 before we saw claims count decline by 30%. Now, we know right now with coronavirus, COVID-19, claims count is down depending on what state you live in and whether it's a rural area or major metropolitan area. We know that claims count is down between 35 to 60%, depending on what state you live in. So ladies and gentlemen, what coronavirus COVID-19 is doing is it's showing us what our industry was going to look like in 2049. But ladies and gentlemen, here's what I believe. I believe there's two other things we need to consider. I think that there were a lot of businesses that fought against telecommuting. They were like, you know what? I don't know if, Ryan, you work at home. I don't know you're doing your job. And so I need you to come to the office every day. And I think there are a
Mm.
lot of people that were old school, Ryan, that kind of pushed back against technology. And what they did is they didn't embrace technology. And I think what's happened is with this coronavirus, COVID-19, that people are working from home. And you know what? They're being productive. And I think there are a lot of employers, they're going to see, wow, my people can be productive telecommuting. And if they start to embrace that, that's less vehicle miles traveled. That's less accidents. Ryan, what are your thoughts on telecommuting? Do you think we're going to see an impact on this because of COVID-19?
Yeah, we're already starting to see that, especially like even from the legal side. We've seen a lot more lawyers and stuff starting to do e-filing, and they're saying we'll never go back to the old way of doing it. So definitely, you're right on pace there.
Yeah, so when you look at this data right here about telecommuting, I mean, look at this right here, right? Telecommuters, look here in 2006, only about 22%, right? It was only about 22% growth, right? Not percentage of the population, but only about 22% more people in 2006 were telecommuting. But you look right here at 2015, there was like a 100% increase, right? I guarantee you after this coronavirus, Ryan, you're going to see this thing like double digits in the percentage of people that telecommuted during the COVID-19 crisis. And I think some of that's going to still extend over after this coronavirus is over. What do you think, sir?
Absolutely, no question in my mind. Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, here's what we need to understand. When we go back and start looking at capture rate, right, what we've seen in the past was that because unemployment was so low and people were working and people were busy, and you had mom and dad that both would, I call them Ken and Barbie, Ryan, right? Ken and Barbie would get up in the morning, right? And they get their kids off to school, and Ken and Barbie both went to work, and Ken and Barbie got off of work, and they took their kids to extracurricular activities. And then what they did is Ryan, Ken, and Barbie had to do the kids' homework and then get them dinner and get them in bed. And it was 9:30 at night, and they finally had time to think about their wrecked car. And what happened was our lives have been so busy that most people were not getting their cars fixed unless they absolutely had to. So when you look at the statistic right here, ladies and gentlemen, you will see that the capture rate on $0 to $500 repairs and $500 to $1,000 repairs is pretty low because people are just like, you know what, I just don't have time to get that stuff fixed. Now, what we see that like a $2,000 to $3,000 claim, that's a capture rate of 76%. You say, well, Mike, how's that possible? But you got to remember, because of ADAS, we have a lot of cameras in the mirrors, we have parking sensors and bumpers. And as people rely on this technology, then what happens, ladies and gentlemen, is they have to get those things fixed. And then obviously when you get to non-drives, meaning like a car and a tow truck, then you're going to see a higher capture rate on that as well. But here's what I believe, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that our sweet spot is understanding in the future how to tap into these $0 to $500 repairs, $500 to $1,000 repairs, and $1,000 to $2,000. And I think Ryan's going to give you some great insights on that in a few minutes. Now, here's the other thing I want to kind of wrap up for you before I share this webinar with Ryan, right? Because I'm sure you want to hear him talk instead of me. But let's just kind of summarize this, right? First of all, frequency is declining due to ADAS. Claims count has been down. Most people have not felt that because their severity went up, which increased their sales, and there were more vehicle miles driven, which increased their sales. Those two things, ladies and gentlemen, were masking the fact that claims count was down because of ADAS, less accidents. But here's what I believe. Right now, people are not selling cars. It would not surprise me, and this is the opinion of Collision Advice, not any OEM has shared this with me. This is just Mike Anderson's insights and opinion. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that because car sales are stale right now, that when we get through COVID-19, it could be possible that you see the car manufacturers and the federal government offer some type of incentive packages to stimulate car sales, just like they did with Cash for Clunkers or electric vehicles. And keep in mind, car sales are dead right now. But when we get through this, if the federal government offers some type of incentive to stimulate car sales, that means that you'll have more cars on the road with ADAS features. That what that's going to do is that's going to hasten that curve of saying, okay, ADAS is only going to impact us 2 to 5% every year. That could start to double 10% every year if there's government incentives and we see more vehicles on the road. So, ladies and gentlemen, we need to be thinking about these statistics today, that capturing in a crisis is going to be a silver lining, because we're going to have to start implementing these best practices now so we can not just survive, but we can thrive moving forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but would you mind going back to the telecommuting slide? I had a couple questions come in asking how can it be more than 100%?
So this is just the growth, right? So it's not like 20% of the population or 100% of the population. This is just what the percentage has been and how much growth we're seeing overall of how many businesses are considering it, right? So at the end of the day, if you look right up here where it says source, special analysis of US Census data conducted for flex jobs, if you just, when you get this webinar, if you Google search that, you'll get the entire report and it will share that with you. So this is not like if you have 100 people, 140 out of 100 are telecommuting. What it's saying is this is how much it's doubling and changing year over year over year, not as a percentage of population, but how many people are embracing it. That's a very fair question.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's what this all means. Car count should be the new KPI, right? How many cars are coming to your shop from each referral source? So what we mean by that, ladies and gentlemen, is right now we've got to start monitoring where is our work coming from, right? It's not enough just to say, well, my work came from the internet. You need to know if they came from your Google business listing, from the Nissan shop locator, or from your Facebook page or your website. It's not enough just to say, well, the work came from the dealership. What dealership did it come from? It's not just enough to say, well, it was referred to me by an insurance agent. What was the name of that insurance agent? Because ladies and gentlemen, we need to be proactive and not reactive. We need to start looking at our source report every month as to where our work comes from. So if it starts to drop off, we can figure out and start investigating why. You know, Ryan, you've heard me often say, data tells me to do one of two things, celebrate or go look. If I see that I'm having a lot of work come from a dealership, like 30 cars a month, and the next month it drops down to 15, well, you know what? I need to figure out what happened. Maybe there's a new general manager of the dealership or a new service writer, and they're sending it to their buddy shop. Or maybe I'm a DRP and I have work coming from a certain insurance company and, excuse me, I see my car count start to decline. Well, maybe they added another shop on, or maybe my score's not good. But we need to be figuring out where our work comes from. So, ladies and gentlemen, the key is to build your best practices now in regards to where is your work coming from, right? We need to build that now. And you also need to educate the front line of your office, like your CSRs or front end estimators, and tell them the importance of why they need to capture detailed information about where our work referral sources are coming from. So if you've got some downtime during this COVID-19, have a meeting with your staff, go into your management system, look at your referral report or your source report, depending on what your management system calls it, and look and make sure it has detailed information. Because ladies and gentlemen, here's what I will tell you. 3 to 4 years ago, a consumer might call a dealership or an insurance company and say, do you have and they'll say, do you have a shop in mind? And the consumer would say no. And they'd say, would you like us to refer you to the shop our dealership uses, or would you like to refer you to a DRP shop from the insurance carrier? And consumers would kind of go there blindly. Ladies and gentlemen, here's what you need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, is that consumers today will not just take the word of a dealer or an insurance company at face value. They're going to go online and do their own homework. And ladies and gentlemen, what we also have to remember is that, ladies and gentlemen, there are multiple channels that people will look for to find us, right? It's not just in the old days calling their insurance company or their agent or calling a dealership or the tow truck driver saying, do you have a shop in mind, or where would you go? Ladies and gentlemen, now people are going online and they're doing Google searches and Yelp searches, and they're looking at social media pages and all these types of things. So ladies and gentlemen, we need to make sure that if you want to thrive and not just survive, you've got to position yourself to make sure that you stand out in all these different types of digital channels that consumers may use. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk a little bit about liquid expectations. You see, several years ago, when a consumer came into our body shop, they would compare their experience at our body shop with other automotive businesses. And then a couple years ago, everybody talked about the Nordstrom's experience. Today, ladies and gentlemen, liquid expectations, which was shared to me by my friend Mark Fincher from CCC, taught me this a few years ago. Consumers, when they come to our shop today, they're comparing their experience with our automotive business with their experience at Amazon and Uber and Netflix. And as all of you know, Amazon and Uber and Netflix are a 24-hour day, 7-day a week, 365-day a year service. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what we have to think about. Because, ladies and gentlemen, what we know is that 36% of all consumers need our services outside of normal business hours. Now, let me share this with you. I was telling Ryan, you know, a lot of times I hear these statistics and I wanted to validate this, right? When I heard that statistic, 36% of people need our services outside of normal business hours. So I went and did some research. And here's what I found out. I found out that the majority of accidents occur on a Saturday. The second day of the week when most accidents occur is on a Friday. And guess when they happen? After 7 p.m., when people are out doing social events in the evenings. And the third day of the week when the most accidents occur is on a Sunday. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's what we know. We know that Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays represent almost a third of all claims. And ladies and gentlemen, here's my question for you. Are you open or available on Saturdays? Are you open or available on Sundays? Are you open or available after 7 p.m.? Because, ladies and gentlemen, customers are looking for our services mostly when we are closed. And the business that can position themselves 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, they're going to tap into that 36% of consumers that want to do business with us outside of normal business hours. And that, my friends, is where we can thrive and not just survive. So with that said, I'm going to share it now with my friend Ryan Taylor from Body Shop Booster. And Ryan, I think you've got some insights as to how we can tap into that 36%. Am I right, my brother?
You are right, my man. And I might have you change the slides for me. I just realized I don't have a controller on this side. So
right. You know what I'm going to do, Ryan, is I'm going to give you control right now, sir. Give keyboard and mouse. So Ryan, take it away, sir.
All right, I will give it a shot. Well, guys, thanks for having me. Yeah, and really what we're doing here is we want to take you guys through how to capture more of those leads. Like Mike said, a lot of people are dealing with us after hours. And so the first piece I always like to talk about is the bait. And I'm just trying to see where the controller is here, Mike. I don't
just gotta
see
click
it
on your slide.
system.
Just click on your slide, Ryan. Click on the slide.
Oh, okay, there we go. Perfect. Look at that. All right, we're good. So guys, the first thing I always tell a shop, whether mom and pop shop or multi-million, billion-dollar organization, is look to your influencers first. So the first bait, and this is really the very first thing that we need to start focusing on. And right now is the perfect time. While you have time, this is what I call relationship marketing. So things like your insurance companies, your agents, your dealerships, start working more with your OEMs and fleet companies, other businesses, and working on that customer that has had a prior experience with you. Those are going to be the lowest hanging fruit for you to actually go out and capture work from right now. We know claims are down, so going out and trying to do traditional marketing doesn't make a lot of sense right now. It's like kind of marketing to fishing in an empty lake. And so when I talk about bait, that's what we are really all about is how do we attract those people to our shop? The second type of bait, and if I can just go back a slide here, there we go. So when we talk about working with these influencers, here's some stuff that I really like to focus on. So when you're working with your influencers, things like your insurance agents, right? Right now they're slow, you're slow. Go and build a relationship with them. Give them tools, give them ways that they can direct traffic to you, because their customers, like Mike said, their customers want to do work in a digital channel. And especially now, we're finding people don't want to go to the shops. They don't want to have an interaction because they're afraid of getting infected. So go and work with your agents. And one of the things that's really powerful that we do with our clients is we provide what's called a referral portal. So within about 8 seconds from their phone or their desktop, that agent can send you over the referral. It lands on your system, and it also gives the customer like a photo estimate tool or the ability to schedule in for an estimate appointment right at your shop. So find ways to take your existing relationships that you have out there and make it really, really simple. Other areas when we talk about influencers, if I can go next slide here. Talk about your dealerships for a second, right? We know that the service drives are full. Like Mike had said, that small to mid-sized damage, that $500 to $2,000 in damage, that's a real sweet spot. And 42% of the vehicles that go through the average service drive, guys, have some degree of damage. So go out and forge those relationships right now and find ways to get what I call transfer efficiency. Transfer efficiency right now is really low. So if a service writer says to a customer, hey, you should go and see Mike's Auto Body, what happens is only about 14% of those people will show up at Mike's Auto Body. However, what we started looking at doing is through technology, again, we can go ahead and get transfer efficiency higher. One of the things that we have is a referral portal, right? And so what that allows a service writer to do is right within about 60 seconds, they can document the damage, the customer's info, it'll track the dealership and track the person referring. Like Mike had just said, you want to track those people who are sending you work. And so this will do it automatically. And we're seeing transfer efficiency jump exponentially. And all this is doing is it's that bait that gets that lead in front of you. Other areas that I would focus on right now, and I just talked to a guy in California about a week ago. He's like, man, my shop's slow. And I said, well, what about fleet work, guys? Like right now, the most expensive thing traditionally for a fleet company is downtime, right? And so right now they're forced into downtime. So use that to your advantage. Go and say, hey, well, your vehicles are forced to be parked. Why don't we fix them for you so when your things pick back up again, you don't have to worry about it. So this guy in California went out and did that, and he picked up 6 vehicles from the first sales call he made. And so that's what I'm encouraging you to do. Find ways to leverage this time to your advantage and forge those relationships and work with your influencers. Let's talk about insurance companies for a second. Often I get people saying, well, hey, you know, insurance companies, what's happening there? Well, is COVID-19 a problem or is it an opportunity for you? And I want to put this in perspective. I was talking to a gentleman and he says, you know, Ryan, years ago, there's a shoe company, a manufacturing company in America, and they decided to expand to Africa. So they sent 2 sales guys over there to go and check out the market. Now, the first sales guy, he lands in the morning, gets off the plane and he looks around, and sure enough, nobody's wearing shoes. So he walks over to the payphone. This is back in the old days when there's payphones. He walks over to the payphone, dials up his boss and gets on the phone with him and says, boss, I'm coming home. There's no point in being here. Nobody even wears shoes. Hangs up the phone and catches the next flight out. And then later that evening, the second flight lands and the other sales guy gets off the plane and he looks around and he sees nobody's wearing shoes. So he trots over to the payphone, picks it up, quickly calls his boss and says, boss, send everybody we got. Nobody's wearing shoes. I have never seen a better opportunity. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is there is an abundance of opportunity that is going to come out of this. And one of the unique things that COVID-19 just put in your lap is this right here. See, what's happening when you take a look at the claims bucket from an insurance standpoint. Traditionally, if that bucket gets emptied out like it did right now, when the claims volume starts coming back in, traditionally the guys at the bottom of the bucket start to get the volume first. So we see the water level rise and the consolidators are getting volume, and then the large MSOs, and then the small MSOs, and then finally the larger independents, and at the very top is going to be your small mom and pop shops. That's traditionally how claims volume works. However, COVID-19 changed that. See, what happens is the insurance companies have to be very careful about sending a customer into an infected environment. Customers' buying behavior overnight changed. And so what I encourage you to do is put together something like this, a COVID-19 touchless repair system or digital repair system. And this is something that I encourage each one of you to do and promote to your shops. So from F&OL, right when you get the assignment from your insurance partner, how are you contacting that customer? One of the things we know is this is an opportunity. The faster you engage with that customer, the better. One of the things that we have now for you guys is artificial intelligence that will actually grab the assignment from Auditex Mitchell or CCC. It will actually make first contact by leaving a voicemail on the customer's phone without it ringing. So within 10 minutes, you can actually make first contact. And this is really important to engage with the customer. The second piece is it will automatically send out your photo estimate tool or the access to your estimate calendar. Now, a lot of customers today, having photo estimating is no longer a nicety. It's becoming a necessity. Okay, guys, and whether you use something like our patented photo estimating system from Body Shop Booster, you can use things like have the customer email you. You can use things like texting. You can have just get images into the shop. You can CCC has a web submission portal now. You can have a web submission portal, a homemade one on your website. Whatever you do, you're going to need to start assessing those vehicles remotely, and that has some challenges, which I'll share with you the pros and cons on that in a second. But then you have to look at how am I going to get that? How am I going to secure that job and bring it in for either a blueprinting appointment or for a repair appointment? The next thing is, what about getting your repair authorization signed, right? And this is a major challenge for a lot of shops. One of the things that we've done is we've baked that right into the Body Shop Booster system so the customer can sign with their finger from any device, right? So there's things like DocuSign, HelloSign, PandaDoc. There's a whole bunch of things that you could potentially do to help a customer there. Find a way to work with your customer remotely. Same thing. What about, think about how you're getting those appointments scheduled. What about a touchless repair system or rental system with your rental provider? And we're seeing people staging cars now at the shops or going and picking up the cars at the customer's home. The next thing you got to think about is when that vehicle is actually being repaired. How are you engaging with that customer to create a personal feeling or relationship? Right now, their car's in a black hole, right? So this is your time to connect with that customer in a highly personalized fashion. Finally, what about online payment? They don't want to come into the store anymore to hand you cash. So how are we going to do that? Well, you can take it by phone or like use a system like ours for doing texting or emailing a payment link so they can pay you directly. Find ways to deal with that customer. And then the last thing is, how are you delivering that vehicle to the customer without any human interaction? So if you can get these things in place and figured out as quickly as possible, and this is your advantage, the shops that pivot quick, right? And look at the bigger you are, the harder it is to spin. And the smaller you are, the quicker you can adapt to something like this. So find ways to pivot quickly, because that is the race. That is the race. So find your touchless repair system. Let's take a look at the next thing. So for the next piece, if I can go next slide here. There we go. Is what about other things? Your passive traffic. Mike had mentioned this a few minutes ago. You've got to get dealing with customers in every different channel, and there's many different digital channels. Your website, people reaching out to you via phone calls. How do you answer the phone 24/7? What can you do with your customers, right? So we have some technology for that as well, but texting, that's become very, very popular. If you don't have that, a lot of customers are going to require that. Email, social media, Google, print ads, 37 other digital channels that are out there. What we wanted to do is make a system that collects all of this and brings all of these things into one simple system, so you're not running around, because this is a big challenge. We see a lot of shops, one of the biggest frustrations we hear out there right now is, man, I've got leads coming from so many different sources. Can't I just have one simple program that manages all those leads? And that's really the kind of the heart and soul of Body Shop Booster. The next thing, once you've got the active influencers, your passive leads coming in, you need a hook. Okay, all that we just talked about before this was nothing but bait. If you've got bait and you're throwing it in the water, there's going to be fish, but you're not hooking them. Communication is going to be your hook. And here's the rule of the jungle. The faster you engage, the higher your capture rate. That's really what it comes to. It all comes down to how quickly you can engage with the customer. And you think about that in your own situation. If you're going through, I don't know, go through a drive-through, right? And you're trying to make a McDonald's order and nobody gets to you for 10 minutes, you're probably going to drive off frustrated. The faster you engage, the higher your capture rate. So let's take a look at how do you communicate more effectively, because this is really part of it. One of the things that we just recently released for shops is our program called AI Cube. So this is actual intelligence supported by artificial intelligence and automated intelligence. And what this system does is it really acts like a virtual assistant. So things like answering your phone. If your CSR is busy or it's after 5 o'clock, how are you dealing with those customers? Are you asking them to leave a message and then getting back to them, right? What you can do with artificial intelligence is kind of like Alexa or Siri. It can now answer the phone when your CSRs are busy or after hours and deal with 90% of their questions. Send them out an estimate tool. It can send out a tow truck, give them your address, update them on where their vehicle is. All these kind of different things are available, and it just streamlines that, again, like Mike said, with liquid expectations. Same thing with texting, email, web contact, the ability right from your website or from your phone to be able to schedule in 10 o'clock at night, I have an accident, I may want to schedule right in. Photo estimates, right? This has become everybody thinks that photo estimates now are a necessity, and they are, but this is not the focal point that you should be focused on right now. And I'll share why in a second. There is a bright side and a dark side to photo estimating. And I've had the fortunate position of working on photo estimating since 2007, guys. And on the bright side, customers really love the convenience. The shops can quickly triage the damage, and this is key. Okay, this is key. I call it the snapshot effect. You'd want to try and avoid the snapshot effect of looking at a photo and trying to assess the damage but not seeing the full picture. But you can triage and advise that customer like you're standing in the driveway beside them. So the faster you look at the photos, the faster you engage, the further ahead you'll be. Eliminating time wasters, right? So things like total losses, things like rust, restoration. When you're looking at photos, you can break up with that customer virtually, and that saves them a lot of time and your people a lot of time. One of the things I know Mike is really a fan of is being able to check on parts and pre-order parts if you need to. We know that a lot of the plants are shut down right now, and so our part's going to be harder to get probably. Well, you can use this as a gaming tool for scheduling more effectively. On the other side of the coin, though, there are some negative things, right? And we have to look at this. So the reality is, whether you like it or not, really every shop is now trying to find ways to digitally deal with a customer, okay? And the problem that creates is that customer doesn't get to see your shop, doesn't get to see your lobby. You might have $1 million lobby, and the guy down the street is working out of an outhouse, right? For all intents and purposes. And so how do you portray yourself to that customer that you are different? Because to the customer online, a lot of shops look the same, right? One of the things we're expecting out of this is to see an increase in customer pay. Right now, customers are going to be getting 5, 6 estimates right from their driveway because they can fire them off really quickly. There's tools out there that actually show all your competition and how to get photo estimates from them. So be very careful about that side of it, because games are going to be played. And a game I can tell you that's going to happen is they're going to say, oh, that's $900 in damage just below your $1,000 deductible. Why don't we get it in the shop and get it going, right? So the customer's like, oh, that's a lot lower than other estimates out there. So they go to the shop. Then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we pulled off the bumper. There's a bunch of hidden damage. I'm sorry, you are going to need to file a claim now. So be ready. There are going to be games that are going to be played, and we can do a whole second segment on how to manage and handle that. But the reality is, bad photos will equal bad advice. Okay, so try and find a system. One of the things that we take great pride in is taking high resolution images that guide people how to take those photos inside of our system, so you can give that customer good advice. You can see things that the other guys can't see and say, hey, look, while I'm looking at this, here's what I'm seeing. And that's going to help you mitigate those negatives. Now, this is where the game will be won or lost. And Mike nailed it when he says capturing is going to be the way of the future. He nailed it. See, in my purview, this is what I call the net. You've got the bait, which is your marketing and all your channels coming in. You've got the hook, which is your communication channels, but then you need the net. You need to get that fish into the net. You need to get that repair into the net. And the way we do that is by helping that customer make it an informed decision. And that's really the key piece. See, right now, we know that a lot of times there's going to be 2 people making the buying decision, right? They're sitting at home and they're trying to make a buying decision. They're no longer in the office. We can't grab that guy and say, hey, here's a donut and a cup of coffee, and yank the keys out of his hand, right? You can't do that anymore because they're dealing with you virtually. So how do you sell yourself virtually? This is the new frontier. This is the new battleground. And thankfully, there's some human behavioral science that helps you. See, people are more afraid of making the wrong decision than they are of spending money. People are more afraid of making the wrong decision than they are of spending money. And thank goodness. I mean, Mike, you've done it. We've all done it. You've gone out and bought the piece of junk and come back and regretted it, right? Like, you've done that probably recently. Even I did it just the other week. So, those are things that you can utilize to your benefit. And so one of the things I'm telling you is, don't just send that customer an email with a PDF. Okay, don't just give them something that can't be tracked. You don't know if they're working on it. One of the things that we saw this coming a couple years ago, that this could be the reality. Now, COVID-19 accelerated everything, but we realized customers who are trying to make decisions online, you need to sell why you are the right choice. So we created a system called Sell My Estimate right inside of Body Shop Booster. And so what this does is you can grab a PDF from Auditex, Mitchell, CCC. It's an open platform. So any estimating platform, you drag it in there, the AI will read the estimate, and then it will actually go ahead and allow you to send it to the customer in a text message or an email. But here's something really cool, is you can actually go ahead and send out the repair authorizations and in different forms. So let's say it's a state, this would be a USAA job. I want to send an authorization to repair, an authorization to tow. So this takes everything that you're trying to accomplish inside a DocuSign and makes it into a 3-second deal where it will self-populate. So when the customer gets the text message or the email, they have an experience waiting for them. So they simply click the link and it brings them into an experience, not just a PDF. If you're sending them a PDF by email, guys, there's one thing they're going to truly understand on that estimate, and that's price. And if you're selling on price, if you're the low price leader in your marketplace, go for it. But for the rest of you who do a good job and want to sell on safety and longevity and all the wonderful things that you need to do, you need to bring them into an experience. So this gives you an example. So where you see ABC Auto Body, that would be your logo and branding. And then below that would be a video that basically plays and says, hey, this is why you should have your Nissan fixed at Mike's Auto Body, right? Because we have advanced training. We've gone ahead and got certification from Nissan. What does that mean for you? It means that we're going to fix your vehicle to their standards. It's going to be safe. It's going to help you with the resale value. All those key components that are like helping the customer make a better buying decision. So the neat part is, what we do in our sneaky little system is we track that customer. And this is where the real battle begins, is follow-up. Okay, so you sent the estimate to the customer. Now when they're looking at it, it triggers a notification to your estimating team saying, hey, Ava McKay is now looking at her estimate, call her here. Because what we want to do is when that customer's in the buying mind frame, guys, when they're thinking about what shop I should use, they're sitting at home in their driveway and they're thinking, hey, you know what, how can I make a good buying decision? You become that trusted advisor. So when you get prompted, pick up the phone, call the customer and talk them through your estimate, talk them through their concerns, and that's going to help you land the job. One of the things that we started looking at is, and this is a challenge, if you're just going to send an email to the customer, know that what happens is about 22 to 23% of the time, estimates will go to their spam folder and they won't see it. Okay, so what you want to do is our system will actually make sure that it has good delivery, but if you got the email address wrong, it will prompt you and say, hey, your customer hasn't opened the estimate in 24 hours. It's time to get in touch with them. Okay, so it just keeps you engaged and monitors the involvement of the customer and keeps your people updated. It lets you know if your estimate's been shared with a competitor. So now you're like, whoa, I'm definitely in a competitive situation. You need to know how to handle that, right? Things like letting the customer book repairs and even sign the repair authorizations needs to be a simple, smooth system so that they combine all your authorizations into one and you can quickly sign it with your finger, the customer can, and submit it back to you guys. So try and find ways to do that. And finally, my last little thing here is follow-up is going to be crucial. So calling the customer, one of the things we know today, 91% of shops tell us they don't do any follow-up. 7% say they sort of do it, 2% say they attempt it multiple times. But follow-up is going to be key. Again, they haven't had an experience at the shop. So start doing things to follow up with that customer. One of the things that we learned from a Accenture study is that you are 67% more likely to get that job if you just do follow-up. So things like voicemail drop, that's a powerful piece of technology that we give you. And what it allows you to do is drop the person's voice or the estimator's voice on the customer's phone. So let's say you time it for 24 hours later and it could be like, hey, Mike, Ryan over here at the body shop. You know I did the estimate for you the other day, just following up to see if you're ready to go ahead and get that scheduled in. It does look like parts are going to be a little bit scarce, so we should probably get things moving in this direction. Just give me a shout back and we can get you scheduled in. My number is. Now, he doesn't make that call, right? The system, the AI will actually drop it on the customer's phone without it ringing. So this is how you can get accelerated communication. Text messages, emails, all that can be actually automated to follow up with a customer, okay? So either do it manually or start finding a system like this one to go ahead and do it for you. I'll share how powerful follow-up is. This is a shop in Missouri. So they two-store MSO, they do about 1.44 million in estimates every single month. And their capture rate was sitting around 60%, so $835,000 a month. By just doing follow-up, they increased capture rate by 5%, okay? Easy to do, start doing follow-up, $72,000 in their pocket every month. That didn't mean you had to do any advertising. Didn't mean you had to go and chase customers. It was just simple, do follow-up. And then by utilizing automation and getting more sophisticated at their follow-up, they were on track to hit 11% before COVID-19 hit, which is $158,000 every single month for those stores. And so I ask you the question, does it make sense to just get more sophisticated and do follow-up if it can make those kind of results? Absolutely, right? So let me just do a recap and I'll hand it back to Mike because I know everybody is amped up to hear what good stuff. He's got some real cool stuff, but here's my 3 secrets. Number 1, get out and work with your active and your passive leads. Get them coming into your shop, okay? Number 2, when they start coming in the shop, find ways to set the hook. How do you communicate 24/7 by phone, text, email, photo estimates, web chat, booking appointment features? Get those things figured out. Number three, sell your estimate. Find ways to influence that customer's buying behavior digitally, remotely, so that they can deal with you. They can sign the e-sign documents, and most importantly, start doing follow-up. Mike, I'll pass it back over to you guys. I hope you guys found that really helpful.
Awesome, Ryan. And Ryan will be with us throughout the rest of this webinar so we can take any questions during or after the webinar. Ryan, great job, brother. Smoking hot stuff. And Ryan,
thank you.
Tell me a little bit about
I forgot about that. Yeah, so guys, for APN shops, Yeah, sorry, Mike. Yeah, for APN shops, so the guys who are on this call, APN has got really excited about this and put together a real special offer for you guys. So if you want to find out more about this kind of technology, more about the strategies that surround this, go to apnbooster.com and you can sign up your shop. They've done an amazing thing where they're actually covering the sign up fee for APN shops to help accelerate you and get you going, and found a really great way to get this going for shops, simple and easy. So thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Ryan. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's what we know. We also know that photo estimating, while it's being embraced by collision repairers now because of this touchless claims process, what impact is that going to have on insurance carriers and the insurance shop relationship in the future? Well, one of the things we see is when we look at data from CCC1, you can see that between 2013 and 2018, photo estimating claims were only handled as a very small percentage of overall claims count. But if you look right here, this was from 2016 to 2018. But if we start looking at each individual quarter of 2019, you saw that this started to double, right? We know factually, we all know that after this COVID-19, if we were to look at the same data, it's probably going to be 50% to 70% of claims. So here's what I believe. I believe that as severity is increasing and going to continue to increase because of scanning and calibrations and more non-repairable parts because of ADAS like bumper covers, that claims count and severity is going to go up. As that happens, insurance companies are going to have to decide how to cut some expenses. And the two biggest forms of expenses are bricks and mortar, which is buildings, and then personnel or employees. I would tell you, I do not believe that the job of an insurance appraiser is a job that I would want to be applying for right now as far as a career option. I absolutely believe that you're going to see insurers that in the past have kind of been hesitant about this whole photo estimating or virtual inspections. Now, I understand there's challenges with that. I totally get it. But understand there's a difference between trying to settle a $20,000 claim via photo than using it as a marketing strategy. And at the end of the day, because consumers are demanding this, I think you're going to see this actually amp up from insurers as well as shops in the future. Again, as Ryan pointed out, couples want to make a joint decision when they're both together to discuss alternate transportation, do we have the money for the deductible, etc. Here's the other thing that I really liked about what Ryan shared, that we're selling the estimate, right? We're selling it, not just saying it electronically, right? Matter of fact, Ryan, in your secret number 3, there was a certain word you used. Let me go back here for a second, right? And what I liked is this word that Ryan used that said, influence the customer to choose your shop. Ryan, I think it's really important that maybe you could just put a little bit more emphasis on that, sir. Can you talk about what you mean by influence the customer to choose your shop?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, guys, when we talk about trying to influence the buying decision, again, it comes back to people being afraid to make the wrong decision over spending money. And so giving them the kind of hitting the key notes that are really going to connect with that customer. And so I always talk about safety. Safety will always trump price. If I said to Mike Anderson, I'm like, hey, Mike, you need to get eye surgery, and I have 2 options for you. I've got these doctors who use the latest, greatest laser technology with razor blades from Germany that are, fine-tuned, or could actually go ahead and save you a few $100s, and I can get these guys that get their razor blades from Wuhan, China, and they're a little bit rusty, but you know what? I can save you a couple $100. What would you do for your eye surgery, right? And in that perspective, of course, you're going to go, whoa, yeah, of course, I want to make the right decision. So using things like safety, use things like longevity. Like, we use Nissan certified parts because we know that it's going to help with the resale value of your vehicle. So help the customer look long term. So anything that you can do, those are what we call influencers, and there's a whole abundance of them. Scarcity, urgency, all those kind of things. You can utilize these human triggers to really help move that customer in your direction. Is that helpful, Mike?
Yeah, it is, Ryan. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember this, right? What we want to do is we're not trying to sell an estimate. We're trying to convince them why we are the best place and why we can be trusted. And you know what, Ryan, one of the things I understood is that competency leads to confidence. When we can promote our competency, that we're OEM certified because we've met the tooling and training equipment requirements. We've had, what's that favorite word you use? What type of training, Ryan?
Advanced. Yes,
training.
sir.
Amen, brother. These are the types of things that will help us to build competence through confidence with the consumer. Now, here's another thing you got to remember, right? One of the other things you can do with this product that Ryan is offering is if you get photos of the vehicle, right? Think about right now, a customer wrecks their car, but maybe you can't get the parts, so you don't want to bring them in right now, right? So we can use the photos to triage or schedule our work. We can also use the photos to get a jump start on researching on repair procedures. I shared with some of my business council 20 group members recently, right? I shared with them that I wrote an estimate on a vehicle recently, and I don't consider myself to be the best estimator, but I do believe I'm above average. And I can tell you that one of my teammates, Josh, who works with me, and Josh does all the Nissan Infinity training, right, for estimating for our team friends at Nissan Infinity. Ladies and gentlemen, we spent almost 5 hours just writing an estimate and researching on repair procedures just to replace a quarter panel. There were 92 pages of documents, but we can't do that once we get the car. But if we can get photos of the vehicle in advance, we can get a jump start on researching on repair procedures. So there's a lot of benefits to getting photos of the vehicle in advance. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
No, I was saying absolutely. You're right on the mark. Yeah.
Thank you, brother. Now, here's the next thing I want to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, is that online reviews. I will tell you now that I believe online reviews are the CSI of the future. For those of you that were with us at the Nissan FCA conference at Disney, one of the things we shared was that we felt that online reviews would be the CSI of the future. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to tell you, and I'm proud to tell you, that Nissan and Infinity now have tied Google reviews into their shop locator. Ladies and gentlemen, this is awesome. This is, I mean, man, they just knocked this out of the park on this, right? But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, Google reviews are now tied into the shop locator for Nissan and Infinity certified shops. Now, why is this a good thing? Because, ladies and gentlemen, consumers are looking to validate their decisions. What did Ryan say? People are more afraid of making a wrong decision than they are spending money. So by seeing Google reviews, it helps them to have confidence that you are the best choice for them. So we want to encourage you to make sure that you're getting as many Google reviews as you can. Now, Ryan, help me understand. I believe Body Shop Booster offers some resources that would help shops to get more Google reviews. Is that correct, Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we have in the background for you guys is post-repair marketing is what it's called. So we know that repeats and referrals are huge for shops. And a lot of shops are telling us that that's the only thing that's keeping them going through these slow times. So having the ability to communicate with a customer post-repair via voicemail, text message, all the things we talked about, email. So what we've done is we've worked with Google, Yelp, and also Facebook. And so we've built an algorithm that will actually send out to the customer kind of a quick like, hey, how was your overall experience? And if they give you a 1-star, what that's going to do, rather than putting it on the public forum first, it's going to give you 30 days to resolve that problem before it lands in the Google bucket, right? And so it's kind of an intelligent review system is what we call it. And then if you don't resolve that problem with the customer, then it will show up as a 1-star, but it buys you a grace period because so many people are getting a text message saying, hey, quickly review us. And they just, oh, this is Google, it's a 1, we're done. So yeah, we do have some intelligence to help you with your reviews and make sure that every customer is dealt with in a timely and efficient manner with all the review engines. So yeah.
Awesome stuff, Ryan. Just keeps getting better and better, buddy, right? So
Thanks,
Lacey,
man.
I feel like I'm watching one of those info commercials or whatever they say, and then, right? So
Right.
ladies and gentlemen, here's what you need to understand is that online reviews are the CSI of the future. So what we need to do is while you've got some downtime during COVID-19, make sure that you've claimed your Google business listing page. Make sure that you've aligned with a company that can help you to maximize and get the most Google business reviews. Make sure that your photos or all your website links on your Google business listing page are accurate and relevant. So ladies and gentlemen, use this time positively. Now, again, one of the things we talked about was capture rate, right? And some people talk about closing ratio. So Ryan, I'm going to ask you your opinion on something, Ryan. One of the things that I believe is that shops are very, very heavy DRP, Ryan. I remember how I said lots of sales cover lots of sins or lots of
100%.
mistakes. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a lot of shops that are DRPs, Ryan. And what they do is they think, well, I've got an 87 or 90% closing ratio. But I believe that's being masked by the fact that they're getting all these DRP claims, and it's masking the fact that they're not capturing the non-DRP claims, right? Kind of law of averages. I mean, if you do 100 cars a month and 70 or 80 of them are DRP claims, it's masking the jobs that you didn't follow up on and collect. And I think that's a mistake that we need to look at, Ryan. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm 100% in agreement, and I call it DRP lazy because when I had my shops, I was exactly in that same boat. I would just wait for them to throw a fish in my boat. I didn't have to bait, I didn't have to hook, I didn't have to get the net out. Now we do, and what we're expecting is right now, the carriers are kind of spinning with this whole thing, and they realize that, hey, we can deal with the customer ourselves through photo estimates, and we can settle the claim and let that person out in the marketplace. And if we have to open up supplement, we will. So I expect to see some changes come out of this, that for those shops that don't know how to market or bait or hook or net a customer, that's going to be an ongoing challenge. Does that make sense to you, Mike?
Absolutely, it does. And I think it's important that we make sure that here's what I see a lot of people, it shows like their closing ratio is like 98% or 100% in their management system. You got to make sure your estimators are converting every estimate over, even if you didn't capture the job. Now, it doesn't convert into an RO in your management system, but you've got to look at that, ladies and gentlemen, and you've got to know who scheduled an appointment with you and who didn't. Now, one of the things that Nissan and FCA did, Ryan, and we both had an opportunity to participate in it, right, was the Nissan experience, right? And one of the things that we saw backstage with Nissan is that, with Disney, is that they kind of showed good show, bad show, right? Like, here's a picture of what a happy Mickey Mouse looks like, right? Here's a picture of a bad Mickey Mouse with a Red Bull in his hand and a cigarette, right? At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, Disney used this good show, bad show to educate what they call was their cast about how things should be. Like, here's good show how your uniform should look, and here's bad show of how your uniform should not look. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to think about whatever management system you're using, ProfitNet, CCC1, Summit, Nexius, Mitchell's Repair Center. You have the ability to capture where your cars are coming from in your management system. And there is an example of a good report and a bad one. So make sure you review that. Now, Ryan, you talked a little bit about closing ratios. Let's put this a little bit into perspective, right? Kind of like some math you had, Ryan. Let's say a shop was doing $1.5 million a year in sales, and their closing ratio or capture rate was 60%. That means they actually wrote $2.5 million in estimates. If we can get their closing ratio to 85%, which is a 25% improvement, that's an additional $625,000 a year in annual sales. Now, let's assume a shop's making a 40% gross profit, which I just put this out there. You should be a 43 to 45% gross profit at a maximum, right? At a minimum, excuse me. So, but we just use 40% for even math. That's still $250,000 additional gross profit. So, ladies and gentlemen, capturing this data as to where our work's coming from and who scheduled and who didn't, and then using Body Shop Boosters follow-up strategies, Ryan. I love what you said. What percentage of shops did you say, Ryan, that actually do follow up with a customer that doesn't schedule an appointment? What was that, like 7% or something?
7% do follow up, and 2% do it multiple times and do a good job of it. So, your competition's not doing follow up right now, and if they're not aware of it, this is your advantage. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a huge opportunity. Now, Ryan, one of the things that you've shared with me, Ryan, and I got to tell you, Ryan, Ryan Taylor, he like gives me one or two little nuggets, and I run with it for like 2 years. So, by the way, Ryan, what's that saying? If I take and I use it one time, it's considered plagiarism. If I use it twice, it's considered research, and the third time I own it. So, Ryan, I actually own this now, right?
There you go. I'm going to have to start giving you credit. I love it.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
That's it. So here's what you told me, Ryan. You said that 41% of all cars that go through a dealership service lane or need some type of collision repair work. Is that what you shared with me?
That's correct. Yep.
Can you help me understand what you meant by that and how you found that out?
So what we did is we actually did a study where we actually put people in service drives, and we started measuring how many cars are going through them. And there's a variance between high line and low line, but basically what we found out is on an aggregate, on a whole, 41% of the vehicles that go through a service drive have small to medium sized damage. And I usually play a video at this point of a dealership where we actually videoed this happening. And I was talking to a shop, and he's like, man, I get like 1 or 2 referrals from my service drive. And I'm like, why? They pump out 200 cars a day through that service drive. He's like, oh, they just don't get damaged vehicles. So I took him by the hand, basically, and we went in that service drive and videoed it. And at that lunch hour, in a 360 degrees of where we were standing, there had to be $20,000 worth of work. So yeah, as far as that goes, service drives, and again, it's small to mid-sized damage. It's the stuff that people are deferring. If it's a heavy hit, they have to deal with it right away. And so you'll see that before it hits the service drive. But talk about a great way to leverage your Nissan relationship. Yep, go ahead.
Our internet went off for a minute at my house because our power went off and it came back on. So I'm so sorry. Are you still there, Ryan and Tracy?
I'm here with you. I'm here with you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, so go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry. Continue on. Tracy, can you just tell us, is everybody okay there? Sorry for the technical difficulties. We had a power surge.
Everything's fine here.
Okay, continue on, Ryan. So I'm sorry.
Absolutely, brother.
I don't know how much you heard, but let's kind of take it from the top again.
Yeah,
41%
I
of
think
all
everybody
vehicles
could
go through
still
the
hear,
service.
but yeah, we were just talking about how this represents a really good opportunity for that small to mid-sized damage, and go and leverage this. See, they've already got the human triggers figured out. They're bringing their cars every time they jump in their Nissan. They turn that key. They trust that Nissan's going to bring them to work safely. They trust the dealership that's going to be servicing their car. So it's an easy transition to get them to trust the certified body shop that's working with Nissan, that has advanced training, and that can give them a certified repair. These are the things that people inherently will say, oh, this makes sense. So it's kind of low hanging fruit that just needs to be picked.
Awesome. So Ryan, looking at this, right, that 41% of all vehicles going through a service lane need some type of collision repair work. And we know that the average RO is $900 to $1,200. Man, Ryan, this is your sweet spot, right? This is going to be a higher gross profit, quick turnaround, usually drivable vehicles. So let's look a little bit at the potential here, Ryan, that you shared with me. Let's say that a small to mid-sized dealership averages 100 cars a day through the service lane. Now, again, this is before and after COVID-19, not today, right? But an average dealership does about 100 cars a day through the service lane. If we take that times 21 working days in a month, that's 2,100 vehicles in a month. Times a 41% of those need service work or collision work, 861 vehicles times 12 months. That's 10,000 potential customers. Now, if we could just capture 15% of them, that is 1,550 vehicles a year times an average order of $1,000. That's $1.5 million potential repair. So Ryan, what tools does Body Shop Booster have available that if we have a dealership that we work with, whether we're a body shop that's owned by a dealership or dealership we do work for, what types of tools and how would your strategy be for clients using Body Shop Booster to tap into this $1.5 million of potential repair?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing for us is we created a really simple to use thing for the service drives. So the service writer can have in their hand, basically from their phone or their tablet, a really quick way to transfer photos of the damage, the customer's info, and then more importantly, to track which dealer it came from and the service writer. Because what we know is what gets rewarded gets repeated. So even if you're giving that service writer a nod, a thank you, a gift card, a donut, whatever it is, if it gets rewarded, it gets repeated. So you build on those relationships. So we track all that stuff internally. And just recently, we did an integration with Hunter Engineering. So when you drive through their quick check drive machines, it automatically takes 40 high resolution photos. And then what we can do if there's damage on the vehicle is it will pump right into your lead bucket inside a Body Shop Booster. So you have that lead and it's simple and easy. So what you want to do is remove the friction. The easier it is for that service writer to pump a lead into your bucket, the better off you are. So yeah, we have some strategies and some tools that we actually train all of our people on how to, all the Body Shop Booster customers, if this is something that interests you, let me know, and we'll share that training with you on how to break down the walls and the barriers and the reason why they might not be referring you in the first place. So we have a lot of stuff on that.
Yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out, Ryan, to Jerry Rosenbarker at Mohawk up in
Yeah.
upstate New York. This guy was a DRP for a bunch of companies, and now he's not at all a DRP for anyone. And that's not anti-DRP. I'm just saying he's been able to wean himself off of there, just tapping into the work that comes through their service lane. So I can tell you, for any of you doubters out there, I can tell you right now, this is a valid statistic, ladies and gentlemen. So think about how you can tap into work in a service lane. And Ryan, just thank you for sharing this with me, right? So
100%.
so continuing on, ladies and gentlemen, here's what I kind of believe, right? And I hope that you will agree that most people think that sales are up last year because of the fact that their dollar value was up. And I do believe that. I do believe that from a dollar standpoint, people's sales were up last year, but that's because severity increased and there were more vehicle miles traveled. I believe that was masking or cover up the fact that we have a reduced car count of cars coming to the door. By the way, quick shout out to you. If you are using Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Enterprise has something called Body Shop Scorecard. Now write that down. Body Shop Scorecard. And Enterprise can give this to you, and it shows you how many of your customers won rental cars by insurance company by year-over-year comparison. It's a great tool. Reach out to Enterprise. Tell me you want to copy your Body Shop Scorecard, right? But what I can tell you is I do believe that is going to be much more competitive for claims in the future. So we need to develop a strategy to improve our capture rate. So remember, track your closing ratio. Make sure all your estimates get converted over so you truly know how many of your vehicles you captured and how many you didn't when you wrote estimates. Remember, you need accurate and detailed tracking of your source or referral data. And remember what Ryan shared with us, 41% of all vehicles going through a dealership service lane are in need of some type of collision work. So ladies and gentlemen, as we kind of wrap this up in about the next 7 to 8 minutes, here's what I need to share with you. I get the opportunity to talk to hundreds of shops on a weekly basis, as does Ryan. And here's what we've learned, and we kind of knew this beforehand. The sign of a healthy business is that your goal should be always to have 6 months of operating capital on hand, right? Now, some of you have had that 6 months of operating capital on hand. I know Greg Lopsinger from Lawrence, you were telling me you were, so shout out to you, brother. And there's a lot of other shops, right? So you're going to make it through this, right? So your goal should be 6 months operating capital on hand. Now, if you didn't have that 6 months, I'm praying that you're going to get through this. I believe that you will. And this is a lesson you need to apply after this is all over. Make it your goal to always have 6 months of operating capital on hand. Secondly, chase your receivables. That's free money. Go into your management system. Figure out who owes you money. Most insurance companies can still make payments to you through EFTs. Chase your parts credits, right? If you've got outstanding parts credits there, go to your management system. That's your free money that's hanging out there. And use electronic parts ordering tools like, OPS tracks. This will help shops and dealers to process your credit returns faster. If you're hourly, maybe you got to limit the overtime of some of your employees. I was talking to a shop today, and he said what he did is he put a day of the week in a hat and told each of his employees, just pick a day of the week out, and that's the day that you'll have to take off once a week, right? I'm sure many of you have been checking with SBA and your personal banks on credit lines and loans. From what I understand, I'm not a tax attorney by any means, but you won't be penalized if you do have to lay somebody off and they collect unemployment. Also, look at your financials, your profit and losses, and determine what are your nice to have expenses versus your must have expenses, right? Nice to have would be, somebody that comes in and cleans your offices weekly. A must have is OEM certifications through APN. That's a must have, right? And if you're a certified shop, I'm gonna tell you right now, did you know that Assured Performance Network actually has assigned account reps to all of your shops? Contact Assured Performance Network, right? And then contact Body Shop Booster so you can consolidate expenses of multiple services you may be paying for that Ryan can do for you for one-stop fee. But whatever you do, don't cut your marketing expenses. Do not cut your OEM certification fees. It's going to pay off for you even more in the next year than it ever has before. Think about spring cleaning your shop, right? 5S your shop. Take everything out, find out what works and doesn't work, clean and maintenance your spray boost, obviously do some online training through iCar, go through your management system. And I really hope that you close every RO out when the car leaves, but if not, go through your management system, close out any old ROs, right? Here's another thing I will tell you is that a lot of shops right now that I've talked to have said they've been cyber hacked. Make sure you get with your IT person, make sure your computers are backed up and secure. Here's the other thing, go to Assured Performance Network's website and look at all the wonderful tools and resources that are there available for you for free as part of your certification that you pay yearly. Document your individual employee's knowledge assessment in the APN Shop Op tool. So I'm going to say that again. Document your individual employee knowledge assessment in the APN Shop Op tool. If you don't know what that is, shame on you. Reach out to APN today. Don't delay. Do it today. Say it out loud with me, Ryan.
Don't delay.
Do it today. Document your individual employee knowledge assessment in APN Shop Op tool. And also, share some of the resources that the OEMs have made available for you in regards to reviewing their own repair procedures and learning them and seeing what features they have. So ladies and gentlemen, again, as we wind this up, remember, capture rate is important to you. Also, any estimates you've written since the first of the year, follow up on those and offer free pickup and delivery. Let them know the steps you'll go to ensure that it's a safe and proper repair, but the vehicle be disinfected, right? Understand that things will change. Photo estimating and virtual reinspections will continue to be pushed to the forefront of all carriers. I guarantee you there are some insurance carriers that are sitting in a boardroom and they're like, how come we haven't been able to process claims like XYZ insurance company? Well, because we didn't invest in this type of intelligence. I will absolutely tell you, expect to see the insurance companies push to the forefront of their budgets and their investment monies into things like artificial intelligence and virtual inspections and photo estimating. Understand, ladies and gentlemen, that if this thing drags on until June, right, end of June or July, which is what I personally believe, and I no inside scoop, just my personal belief, maybe this be end of June or July, you will see some shops that will close probably. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, it will be because they didn't have the cash reserves to withstand it. But ladies and gentlemen, for you that are looking to grow, there could be some good acquisition targets out there for you. So look and have those conversations with your banks or SBA so you'll have all the financial paperwork done if there are some acquisition targets. In regards to dealing with your employees, be transparent, be honest, communicate. Remember, be transparent when it comes to your company matters. If you've got to let some people go or make some reductions in hours or wages or whatever the case may be, just be transparent and honest and include your staff in the decisions when possible. Why? Because this will make them further invested in your company in the future, and it creates an environment that encourages feedback when you're being transparent and share things with them. So in summary, Tracy, before I wrap up my final comments, Tracy, do we have any questions for Ryan or I?
I do have a couple questions. So Dalo Pica is wondering, what is the definition of operating capital?
So your definition of operating capital would be what your overhead expenses are each month for 6 months. So let's say, for example, that that would be like, what does it cost for your mortgage, to pay your office staff, your utilities, any software subscriptions that you have. But it's basically what your operating expenses are, Dale. So let's say that you did $200,000 a month in sales and you made a 43% gross profit. Then it's the operating expenses or everything after that 43% gross profit that you have to pay monthly, whether you fix 1 car or 0 cars. And Dale, because I know you, love you, brother, I'd be glad to do a webinar and go over that with you. So that is a great question. Operating expenses are how much would you have to pay monthly just to survive if you had no income coming in, right? Generally, that's probably going to be in the neighborhood of about 32 to 36% of what your gross sales are. Tracy, what's the next question?
The next question is from Scott Calamine. I hope I said his last name right.
Yeah, I know Scott from the Coyote Vision Group days. Love you, brother. Good to have you on our webinar.
Perfect. I think his question is for Ryan. He says, why isn't video used instead of photos in estimating?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So we actually have it out of the box ready to go for video. The biggest challenge is data transfer. So once 5G becomes a reality, I think you'll see everything move to video. So it's just what happens is video gets compressed and it gets fuzzy and granulated. So it's hard to see and hard to transfer. And especially if they do anything over like about a 15-second clip. So it's very hard to control. When you see 5G come on the scene, and just to give you an idea, 3G, it would take you for a normal movie to download. 2-hour movie on 3G would probably take you 8 hours. On 4G, you're going to see that be more like probably 8 to 15 minutes. And then on 5G, you're going to see a 2-hour movie could be absolutely uploaded, downloaded in about 3 seconds. So when 5G comes on the scene, I expect to see that transfer over to video, and it will actually be high res. And that's, yeah, so great question. Hopefully that answered it for you.
Yeah, so probably in the future, what you're saying, Ryan, is 5G eventually will be video. So think about like autonomous driving, right? There's different levels. So photos is the first, and then videos would be like the next level, correct?
Totally. Yep. So we're already planning for that eventuality. So we've got everything on our side ready to go. We just need the data carriers to pick up their pace a bit.
Yeah, I also think that if you really follow 5G, right, which I try to follow quite a bit, that's really going to be key to the success of telematics and connected vehicles as well. So 5G is definitely the big thing we want to be watching. Great insight, Ryan. What's the next question, Tracy?
So this question, it doesn't have a shop name. It just says, what are you hearing about shops getting parts?
So that's a great question. Ryan, you want to go first? I'll go second. Have you heard anything on that? I've got some insights, but I'll allow you to go first, sir.
Yeah, well, not a ton on actual interruptions and stuff, but one quick thought I can share with you is use this to your advantage. So right now, if you haven't already done this, call all your past estimates, like even up to a year ago, and also all your existing customers, reach out to them and use the parts as a scarcity and urgency trigger. So for example, you've seen people hoarding toilet paper, right? So they're holding onto their toilet paper, they're holding onto their money, but what you can do is use the same thing that made people rush out and buy toilet paper. You can use those same human triggers to get cars coming into the shop. So here's what I'd recommend. Reach out to unclosed estimates and say, hey, I wanted to check in with you. I know we did an estimate. And by the way, we expect there to be, a potential part shortage because there are plants that are shut down. We do know that the delivery of parts is getting interrupted in different places. So it's in your best interest if before pricing maybe will go up on parts, we should go ahead and get your vehicle booked in and get those parts on order now. That way you won't have to suffer from driving a damaged vehicle long into the future or having to pay more more to get it fixed in the future. So use the scarcity and urgency triggers that will get people moving into your shop immediately. So that would be my part shortage advice. Mike, you can talk about the actual supply chain part of it.
Yeah, Ryan, I just made like 2 notes on that scarcity. That's awesome, right? To call a
Yes,
customer
sir.
and say, hey, there's a challenge getting parts. If you think you're going to want to book an appointment in the future, we need to get it ordered now. I really like that, Ryan. So, a month ago, most shops I talked to said, hey, we had no problems getting parts. Our parts vendors are open, they're delivering, et cetera, et cetera. I talked to some shops today and last Friday. I have heard that some dealerships that, obviously provide the parts, that they're now only delivering maybe like once a day or once every 2 to 3 days. So it sounds like there's still availability of parts. I think most of the OEMs, for the most part, have done a great job. They had enough parts in their warehouses and distribution centers, but the challenge now is just, I think, is just that it's staffing, right? Some people that I've talked to at the dealership level just said that some of their employees didn't want to come in because of health concerns, and so what they're doing is they've got a limited staff, and so they're only doing deliveries like once every other day or once every 3 days. So in short, I hear that most people don't have a problem getting the parts. It's just that they're available, but there's a difference between available and how often somebody can deliver those. So I think deliveries are not, as flexible as they used to be. But again, that could be good for us, right? A lot of us were doing 2-3 parts orders a day. That's not very efficient for us. It's not efficient for the dealership. It's not, efficient for the OEM, right? But I think if we get this makes us get better at ordering parts through electronically, like some of the APM shops have told us they were using OPS tracks, that it'll actually make it better for us. So in short, parts are available, but deliveries are being maybe cut to like once every other day or once every 3 days. Other questions, Tracy?
Yeah, this one says, do you think insurers will move away from CSI to online reviews? And is there a way to game that system too?
So, I think that you already saw it with State Farm. State Farm has never done CSI surveys like other insurance companies in the past, that, like USA or Nationwide. They never surveyed the customer, where you kept informed, etc. And then you saw last year that State Farm did start tying Google reviews, online reviews, into their shop locator. I absolutely believe that you will see insurers and OEMs moving away from the CSI questions where you kept informed, was vehicle delivered on time as promised, and it's going to move to online reviews. So my short answer to that would be yes. We've already seen that with State Farm, and I believe you'll see more insurers follow suit in the near future.
Okay. One more for Ryan. It says, how does the Body Shop Booster DocuSign feature work?
Oh, okay, great question. Yeah, so really what we do there is right when they're looking at their estimate, we try to create like a seamless experience. So of course they see the video, it's starting to influence them that, hey, this is the right shop for me. They view the estimate, and then there's like a book repair feature where they can click on it, and it will bring up all the authorizations. So whatever authorizations you want, we make it real simple. You just click through and say, I want, a State Farm authorization. I want an authorization for pre and post scan. I want a towing authorization, whatever authorizations you need for that particular customer. You just click through it, and it's intelligent enough to read the customer's information, vehicle information off of the estimate, whether it's Autotex, CCC, or Mitchell. And it'll basically combine it into one easy DocuSign kind of a concept. So right there on their phone, while they're looking at their estimate, they can actually sign the repair authorization and book an estimate, or sorry, book a repair appointment seamlessly. So yeah, fairly simple, straightforward, and makes it a lot easier for shops to get those authorizations from their customers signed. Yeah, good question.
Thanks, Ryan. Well, in the essence of time, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to get to any more questions. If there's a question that we didn't get to, Tracy will forward it to me, Mike Anderson, and Ryan Taylor, and we will absolutely get we'll email you directly with an answer to your questions. So, Ryan, any closing thoughts before I share mine, sir? Any closing comments?
One quick one.
Comments?
Yeah, I think one quick one for everybody. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and he says, what, this time is like when your bag or your purse gets turned upside down. Everything's getting dumped up, and our businesses right now, they're turned upside down. Things are getting dumped out. He says, but you know what, when these people put their bags, their purses back together, you know, they leave out the broken pencils and the bubble gum wrappers and the scraps of garbage. That all gets left out. So right now is your perfect time to start upgrading your business, putting things back in place, putting things in there that are more efficient, and leave out the broken pieces, the broken system, the garbage. And what's going to happen is you're going to have a faster, more profitable, better business long into the future. And so that's encouraging for me at this time. Mike, I'll pass it back to you for your thoughts.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Tracy, did you have any comments that you would like to share, Tracy?
No, just thank you for the questions, and I will share the rest of them with Mike and Ryan.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I also want to apologize where my power went out earlier. I had a little blip where I was removed off the webinar, but I'm hoping that Ryan was still able to be heard and you were able to view the screen, and you will get a recorded version of this. So, ladies and gentlemen, in closing, thank you all for attending today's webinar. And here's what I believe we will see when we get through this. I believe, first of all, people are going to be stir crazy and they're going to have cabin fever, and they're going to be hitting the roads in unprecedented numbers, which means more cars on the road, more vehicle miles traveled. That means more accidents. I believe people are going to have to work their regular job, and they're probably going to have to work part-time just to get caught up on their bills financially. That means more cars on the road, more vehicle miles traveled, more accidents. I believe a lot of people are going to avoid ride sharing and public transportation. They're not going to want to take the subway or an Uber or Lyft because they're still going to have some lingering concerns over coronavirus. And what does this mean? More cars on the road, more vehicle miles traveled, more accidents. I think people are going to be making up for birthday celebrations, rescheduled weddings, delayed celebrations of life. All of this is going to lead to more cars on the road, more vehicle miles traveled, and more accidents. So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the future is bright. I believe that what's going to happen is claims count is going to go through the roof because of everybody driving. And what's going to happen is a lot of the insurers aren't going to be able to handle the increased claims volume. And that means as a DRP, you're going to see more assignments. If you're not a DRP, you're probably still going to see like open shop assignments through CCC1 or Mitchell RC Connect. I absolutely believe that insurers will realize that they don't have to micromanage the process anymore. I was talking to Jason Boggs the other day up in New Jersey, who's an OEM certified shop through APN. And he was saying he's not a DRP for anyone, but he's actually getting assignments from insurance companies now, writing the estimate, and they're approving them. Ladies and gentlemen, I think insurers are going to realize they don't have to micromanage the process, and the old way is not necessary anymore. And this is going to open up totally new opportunities for everyone. I also believe, ladies and gentlemen, because a lot of shops have laid off some employees, that when this flood of work comes through the coronavirus, after we get through coronavirus, this flood of work that's going to come through, there's going to be a backlog of work and cycle time is going to go up. Now, here's the good news. Let's say that you're a DRP shop and your score wasn't very good compared to an MSO or a Banner or just another local single shop you competed with. Understand this, ladies and gentlemen. I came in this career as an adult in November of 1985. This is the very first time I can ever remember my entire life career that everyone has a chance to be reset back at zero. So I mean, like, this is going to be like a new race. It's like a white flag has come out, you know, like a caution flag in the middle of a race or something, a caution flag, and everybody's had a chance to close the gap on the leaders. So ladies and gentlemen, do everything in your power to present for this new race and new time that's going to come out of this. You know, I think about pit crews, right? You know, sometimes the difference between a race, the first and second place winner, is just a matter of seconds. And those seconds be gained by a very efficient pit stop. So ladies and gentlemen, understand that speed is and will continue to be everything. So while you're slow, figure out the speed now. Figure out the speed on how to get in touch with that customer when you get an assignment. Figure out the speed on how to get in touch with that customer to follow up if they don't schedule an appointment. Figure out the speed on how to use electronic parts ordering. Figure out the speed now for how you're going to cycle vehicles through your shop, not by cutting corners on safe and proper repairs, but by utilizing more resources or allocating resources to a vehicle. Because, ladies and gentlemen, when we get through this COVID-19, and I didn't say if, I said when, there is going to be tons of work, and you'll be getting a fresh start in a new race like we've never seen before. So train, train, train now. Prepare now. Work out the bugs with Body Shop Booster. Start doing your research with APN. Make sure your shop locator set up right so you can attract those customers, right? And start focusing on your service, your speed, and your accuracy. So when the time comes, you will be prepared to dominate. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Ryan Taylor, Body Shop Booster, Mike and Tracy, Collision Vice, and the team at Assure Performance Network, as well as all the OEMs, we just want you to know it was our honor. Our recording will be made available to APN to share with you. Thank you, and make it a great day.